Hello, everybody. Yeah, we're all good. We're running. And welcome to the first live, free Friday live painting session of 2026. Very good to see everybody. Glad you're all back. Hope you had a nice break. So today is we're doing one of the things that I'm always encouraging people that learn with me to do, which is to do small, time-limited, focused studies, rather than always trying to finish a painting in one sitting and to make a finished piece of work. I think it's very, very easy to get hung up on the idea that everything you do needs to be finished. And the reason I think it's a good idea just to do small kind of sketchy pieces sometimes, just at studies to work things out, is that actually I think you make more progress if it's important to you that you make more progress and that you grow as a painter. The absolute best way to do that is with small studies. I'm not saying only do that and nothing else. Obviously, you want to be doing some finished paintings sometimes, right? But if all you ever do is finished paintings, the thing is, when you're doing a full painting, there are so many things to think about at once. The composition, the color, the mark making, the edges, the subject matter, how you're painting it, the value balance. You know, it's so easy to lose focus of the big picture. That what actually happens is you might be making some progress on each of those individual areas a little bit at a time. But if you want to do something like this subject is an example of one that we did a few versions of similar subjects in a workshop that we're just wrapping, live workshop we're just wrapping up at the moment, called Brushes with Autumn. Obviously, it's not autumn anymore. And these studies were all about learning to paint more expressively. And one of the things that I'm always trying to encourage people to do is to use more paint. So what we did was we did a bunch of studies like this, just with raw umber and white, as I'm going to do today, because raw umber and white is cheap. Now I'm using lead white, which is granted is not cheap, but you can use titanium white, which is pretty cheap. You know, it's not a very expensive paint to be using. And that means you won't be worried about using your most expensive colors, because probably one of the biggest problems that I see in paintings from people who are near the beginning of their learning journey is they don't use enough paint. If you don't have enough paint on the panel, it's difficult to paint expressively. It's difficult to get all of the possibilities out of the medium, right? So, the beloved Wumpkin. Yes, indeed. Let's switch over to the easel. Here we go. I'll be removing this value scale. I'm going to show you. Have we got ChromaMagic up there at the moment? No, at the moment I've just got the reference photo up. But before we do anything else, I'll tell you what I'll do. I've also got it up in ChromaMagic. There's more information about the ChromaMagic app in the description for anyone who's watching this later. That wasn't the screen we wanted. You can tell I'm a bit out of practice, can't you? It's been like 3 weeks since I did a live session and I've forgotten how everything works. Here we go. So here's the same reference photo open in ChromaMagic. So I have this open on my laptop next to my easel, you know. Show you a couple of things about this. So if we go into, you see some surprising things. Like this is interesting because ChromaMagic is based on the Munsell approach to color. So this is just values only, you know, the reference photo is values only. And if I click around, it will show you like what value in the reference photo various parts of the image are. So that's actually, it's saying it's a value too, which is like very dark, you know, it's like, it's dark. Light part around here, value 8.5, down here, dark, down here, it's like about a 4.5, a 5. Do you see what I mean? So you can click around and you can see what the values are, but it also has a really handy little thing called the value thing here. Now I've got this on 5 different levels of value. You can do something like this in various apps like Photoshop will do this for you as well. But the nice thing about ChromaMagic is it's incredibly cheap and incredibly useful. So this is nice because it can kind of divide the subject up into value zones. So I can divide it into 4, into 3. That's quite interesting, actually, into 3. But I think I get the best kind of impression of the subject with 5, right? So I'm gonna mix 5 values. I think I'm gonna paint this with 5 values, and we're going to see how that goes. It's going to be something like that. So it just helps you kind of break it down into value areas. Doesn't mean you have to paint it exactly those values. I'm probably going to paint it a little bit lighter than that, just because I'm feeling the lighter value today. These are all brushes left over. Might use that one, actually. Might use some of these. Let's leave them out. So the nice thing is about all of this, though, if you wanted to get really accurate with the values, I actually have a Monza value scale here. So if you wanted to mix 5 values, you could mix like a 1, say a 1, say a 3, a 5, a 7, and a 9. And that would get you really close to what you could see in that quick screen share of ChromaMagic. Really, really useful. The camera trick to match paint with the chroma scale, is that a modus on the phone or a modus on ChromaMagic? It's on the phone, so I won't go into that in too much detail right now, but basically I call it the camera hack. It's a way to check color. So if you've got the value of a color, so if you've got, I will explain it really quickly. If you've got a really high chroma color, very intense color, they're very difficult to judge the value of. You can put a dab onto various parts of the value scale, guess it, and then hold your phone over it, or a tablet with the camera set to grayscale, and it will show you how close you came. Really good to see everybody today. Thanks so much for coming. Judy says, where might one obtain that value study scale? There is a link for this in the video description. You can get it from Paul Cantore. Let's get some paint out. Lead white. You can use titanium, no problem. If titanium means that you will be less shy of getting the paint out. Hello, Michelle. Good to see you. Everybody should know that Michelle Clamp in the chat there is actually the designer and builder of the incredible ChromaMagic app. Raw umber. I like to get nice big tubes of raw umber. And those are the only 2 colors we're going to use today, raw umber and white. Why not black and white? Yes, you could use black and white if you wanted. The nice thing about using raw umber is it makes it almost like a kind of a sepia photo. It just has a really nice kind of expressive quality to it. The other thing is, when you are doing a still life painting, a still life subject, generally speaking, especially if the local color of the subject is close to neutral, as it obviously is with this gouache, you will generally find there'll be a little bit more chroma in the shadows, and they will be a little bit, dare I say it, warmer than the lights. A little bit. And raw umber and white kind of nicely mirrors that effect. It only really works if your subject is low chroma. You know, if this was like an orange, then obviously the lights would be higher chroma. So what I've got here is a little bit of linseed oil. I put in a little bit of Gamsol in it. I've recently switched back to Gamsol again after a good friend Thomas sent me, I finally have seen for the first time a serious scientific study on the harmful effects of terps. So just to be on the safe side, I've switched back to Gamsol, which is still, you know, it's not great, but it's not quite as bad. Anybody watching today from Minneapolis, I feel for you. It must be horrendous what you're going through there at the moment. Anybody watching from Greenland, I feel for you. Anybody who's watching from anywhere in the world pretty much at the moment, I mean, what is going on? What is going on? Just craziness. So this is a makeup sponge. I'm getting a little bit of this oil on, and I'm going to oil out the panel first. Now I'm going to do this pretty loosely. I'm not too bothered about really perfectly accurate drawing. What I'm after here is like a loose expressive sketch. I'm going to wipe that back. Slightly dirty bit of kitchen roll, but never mind. Yeah, so I'm going to be thinking about like the application of the paint, having a bit of fun with how it goes down. The nice thing, I mean, possibly the best takeaway that I hope that you could get from this session today is that if your drawing is reasonable and your values are pretty good and you've simplified the subject pretty well, you can be really, really free with how you lay the paint down, as long as you keep those main fundamental elements of a painting under control. Totally, Judy, yeah. All I can say is for people in the US at the moment, it's such a scary time for you. I mean, it's a scary time for us all now. It's even being floated that NATO may be going to war with itself. I mean, what is going on? What is going on? Personally, I think that's all just a big distraction and a headline grabber, and it is actually working, you know. Pretty much everything that's going on over there at the moment seems to me to be largely about making sure that everybody forgets that the Epstein files were supposed to be released on the 19th of December in their entirety. And so far, I think it's about 1% or something in it. Is it been released? Crazy, crazy world. How are we going to approach this? Well, I'm going to start off just by putting a rough grid. Like I always do this with these kind of studies. Central vertical, central horizontal. I know there's someone out there thinking, hang on a minute, this is a painting channel. I don't want politics with my painting. You know, fair enough, there's lots of other painting channels out there where they don't talk about politics at all. I do. I do, because I think it's important. Now then, let's rough out this. I'm probably going to stay like pretty close to the I mean, what you can do is you don't necessarily have to follow the composition of the reference photo, but I think I will this time. But what I'm going to do as I draw this out is I'm going to kind of draw out what you might call the value zones. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll switch back while I'm doing this drawing out bit to ChromaMagic. Come on, ChromaMagic. There we go. I wonder, I can't really make that any bigger without obscuring the actual painting. The only downside with me doing this is it means that I can't actually keep up with the comments whilst I've got this screen up. Normally I do that with my phone, but guess what? I'm so out of practice that I forgot my phone. So let's get a rough idea of where things are. The bottom of it is about here. The top of it is about here. Just like roughly get, where's it all going to go? Furthest left point, Furthest right point. Are we going to put in, that's definitely too low. We'll go a little bit higher with that. Central stem, maybe about here. Are we going to put in the shelf? Let's just have a rough idea of where the shelf is anyway. About there. And it's kind of slanted, but it doesn't mean it has to stay that way in the painting. And then we've got, I'm just going to do like a really simple kind of a straight line block in here. Just to rough out the main shape. The one kind of ray of hope that I think we have in all of the madness at the moment is that, you know, I'm a big fan of Heather Cox Richardson. I watch her YouTube channel and I get her letters from an American every couple of days. And, you know, she's a very smart lady, and she is of the belief that they are cracking, that the administration is cracking, that Donald Trump is under a huge amount of strain at the moment because his polling figures are so bad. And I think she's probably right. And maybe there may be an end to the madness. I just hope you get to have your midterms. So I'm now we've got the basic shape in, right? So now I am going to go in with deciding where these, you know, blocking out where these value zones are. I'm not too bothered today about making sure that I do exactly the same values as I see in the reference photo, but I'm going to do the shape. So like at the moment, I'm looking for the dark shape, this big darkest shape. Probably to make it clearer, like, so this is the shadow here, the cast shadow. Because it's backlit, like the shadow comes straight towards, it's slightly confusing, right? Sorry, I was halfway through a thought there that I didn't finish. And I've now completely lost, so it's gone into the ether, that one, and won't be coming back. We just kind of get these shapes in. I'm going to scribble it in so you can kind of see that this is all one shape here, right? Note that I've removed the division between the bottom of the squash and the cast shadow. I'm just seeing it as a single shape, simplifying even more than ChromaMagic is giving us it at the moment. That looks too tall and not wide enough. What have I got wrong? It'll all come out in the wash. Got another dark shape over here. So I just want these shapes to be roughly in the right place and about the right shape. The one here. Very kind of like loose, but sort of accurate at the same time, you know. By accurate, I mean in the right place and taking up the right amount of space. So that gives us our darkest area. I'm probably just going to do just outline the next one, because beyond that, it's going to get a little bit too fiddly. Maybe I can scrub that one in as well, we'll see. Value zones. And it helps with something like this, which is, you know, basically pretty tricky. I mean, backlighting is not easy to do, but this approach makes it doable. And then if, you could practice this a few times and then try and do something from life and see the zones way, way harder, right? Way harder, but really, really good practice. Here, it's going to go up there, like that. And this is all that next value. Scrub this in a little bit, try and make it a lighter value than the first one I did. So obviously these values are not going to stay as they are. You press harder, you get a darker value. It's almost like drawing with charcoal, this. Very light pressure, you can get a lighter value. Nice way to rough things in. It's a nice way to draw out the start of a plein air painting, I'm finding as well. All of this is going to be dark to here. So we'll hopefully be able to see like some kind of suggestion of the subject appearing, like before we even get to starting to put any proper paint on. That was a bit too dark. Never mind, no. It's all dark. So the light is actually coming from behind and above the squash, pumpkin, wumpkin. And it's just one of those random things. I have a really nice window in my studio. The bottom of the window is about waist height, and then it's got one of those kind of window seat type of things. It's a really, really old house, this. Really thick walls. And if I put something on the window seat and then look at it from facing the window, the light falls behind it. And on top. And the shadows come towards me, which I really like. So I can start to, I can see where my shape is out a bit more now. Trying to refine the shape a little bit. I think I haven't gone wide enough here, and this is why it's looking a bit out. I think it needs to be a bit further around there. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where everything is. So I've really only put in, I mean, I'm interpreting this fairly liberally, even what ChromaMagic is showing me. Like, I've basically got a shadow, kind of a half tone, and then just light. But I think what I'll do next is I'll start to paint those areas in a bit more obviously, but still pretty simply. Alkyd paint is the highest chroma. I would be very dubious about that. I've never heard that before, I have to say. I would want to look into it and find out. Alan says, hi Michelle, the phone hack into ChromaMagic would be so useless, I can't do it on my phone. I can't imagine how you could do it. You can't build it into the software though, can you? I don't think you can build it into the software because you need a camera. The whole point about the phone hack is that you have to have a camera to do it. Otherwise it won't work. Yeah, the palette mode is brilliant in ChromaMagic. I love that. Yeah, Alkyd paint is the highest chroma. I don't have any Alkyd paint, so personally I would want to test that. I would want to test it. I'm going to mix up some values. 5 values. Jan's Paint says, tuned in late, so this may have been mentioned, but Susan Lyon will posterize a photo just like this when painting a portrait from a photo. Really helps. And she does the most amazingly beautiful work, doesn't she? Susan Lyons, I love her work. Susan Lyon, I should say. A light value, 9-ish. Mostly white with a tiny little bit of raw umber. I'm going to mix up like fairly large wadges of paint here. I think for my darkest value, I mean, it should be like around here if I was going with the reference like really low. I'm going to try painting this a little bit lighter to begin with, and then maybe darken it if I feel like it afterwards. So I'm going to go a little bit lighter than that. Why? I can't really tell you. I'm just feeling it as being a bit lighter. But one of the things that's worth bearing in mind about photos is that they tend to emphasize the extremes of value. You know, so if I painted this from life, this squash, there is no doubt that I would paint it the dark values like slightly lighter. So I'm going to go like about a value 3. You know, the shadow side of the squash, I would paint it slightly lighter if I were looking at it when I was painting it from life. Whereas on the reference photo, they will appear, the values appear, the shadow values appear darker. And I think part of the reason for that is the camera kind of averages out the values for what's in its frame. And when we're looking at something, I have a value in between those about 5-ish, a bit higher. When we're looking at a subject, we see it in the context of everything around us. You know, so I have a feeling that it may be, you know, if there's something else that like really dark in the room, a really dark value, but it's not in the frame of the camera or in the frame of like what you're looking at in your subject, that will affect how you see, how you judge the values, the darkest values in your subject. But the camera can't see it if it's outside the frame. I'm going to go just a bit higher than a 5 for the middle value. And then because I want 5 values, I'm going to mix in between, the value in between each of these. Now I have narrowed the value range a little bit by not using my darkest value yet, which may make it slightly more difficult to have the value zones clearly delineated, but we'll see how we go. I'm going to sneeze. I'm just warning you now. And I'll turn the mic off. Achoo! Another one coming. Did I turn the mic off then? I'm not sure if I did or not. Those were almighty sneezes. And now I've got to blow my nose. I'm really sorry about this. I should have said at the beginning, actually, I've got a bit of a cold. The last couple of days I've been waking up with, you know, that weird kind of swollen gland feeling you get in your throat sometimes. Not the best start to a new year, but not to worry. We'll soldier on regardless. So I'm trying to balance these values like visually, 5 of them, lightest, darkest, middle. Let's just start putting some on and see what happens. Obviously, normally you would be thinking about, well, I'll use a small brush to start with and we'll just kind of feel our way in. Let's not do that, huh? Let's use a spatula because it's much more fun. Dark value. Let's not be messing about, right? I just really like the marks these things make because they're so different from the marks that brushes make. They're so like emphatic and strong and just, I like the edges, the kind of blockiness of them. They're great fun to paint with. It takes a bit of practice to be able to paint like reasonably accurately with them, you know, but you can. Shadow around here, cast shadow. So this whole shape is the shadow side of the squash and the cast shadow all together. Now I'm kind of feeling like I wish I'd gone lighter even than I did. Maybe I will go even lighter than this. Cast shadow. See if the simplification works well. If the drawing is like reasonably all right, then I can get away with quite a lot with how I put the paint on. I'm just making these shapes. You can kind of already feel a little bit, can't you, that there's it's a backlit subject. No, everybody says port looks rubbish. Okay, I'm gonna have to paint a bit more then. It's important to get this kind of curve in here. Any more dark? Well, this is dark, so we'll just whack a little bit in down here for now. It's only paint, right? And this is the great thing about raw umber and white. And it was actually, I was really, really pleased. Haven't done this in a workshop before, but I was really, really pleased with how well it went down in the workshop, and how much freer everybody felt with the paint. You know, I mean, I'm troweling this on like a bit higher. Go a bit higher with this. It's liberating. And you can find stuff, you know, ways to put paint down that you might find that you really like, and then they become part of your kind of personal, part of your voice. Because everybody I've found in, you know, the years I've been teaching, that everybody has a different way of putting paint down. Next value up. No, I think this should be lighter, actually. I think this should be lighter. Yeah, see, I really want that to show the difference. So I'm actually going to use my middle value for the shadow value, next shadow value. Let's just put all of this in like pretty blocky and see how it goes. I need to be able to see the difference between these two values, right? Maybe it should have gone even lighter than that. But it's really difficult. The funny thing about value is it's very difficult to judge until you've got the surface completely covered. You know, and you've got all of your values in. And then you can see the relationships. Until you've done that, it's incredibly difficult to judge the value relationships. Spatula is good for icing cakes and painting squashes. Squashes are a favorite subject of mine. They're a bit like lemons in that they're kind of, the form of them is really nice and they're a little bit angular. They're ones like this anyway are the same color all over, and they just, they lend themselves well to simplification. In praise of the squash. Personally, I think people should paint squashes as much as lemons. I think it's a much maligned subject, the squash. It hasn't been painted nearly enough in the history of realist art. And I think I'm going to have to start a campaign for squash painting. So this is, we've got a gift here in this subject in the way that ChromaMagic has simplified it. Floria Tosca says, I'm not impressed with the sneezes. If I get a cold, I sneeze in threes, and it sounds like the world exploding at the end of a Bond film. Goodbye, Mr. Bond. Achoo! Yeah, they were rubbish, weren't they, to be fair? Honora, good to hear it. Honora is joining the pumpkin campaign. You can be our official treasurer and pumpkin fancier. I think my drawing's a bit out. Painting lemons for the Strada challenge. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have to leave the stream. Lemon painters are not allowed. Only squash painters are allowed on these streams. Rika, hello from Denmark. I'm on your side. I'm totally on your side. Jan's going to paint the squash. Brilliant. I didn't turn the mic off at all, did I? I thought I did, but it didn't go off quickly enough. Yeah, I know you can take photos from within ChromaMagic, but you still have to, you've got to have it open on a device that lets you take photos. So if you've got ChromaMagic open on a device that lets you take photos, then that device can take photos, right? I think. Is the photo available to Paul students? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. P.S. Rosemary says, it's in the community. So if you're a part of my artist community, then the photo is there. It's starting to come, isn't it? It's, I'm kind of surprised that this is all it's taking. You know what? I'm going to bring up the, just 2 seconds. I'm going to grab my, am I going to grab my phone? I'm going to grab my phone and then I'm going to bring up ChromaMagic because it's going to be better if you can see that. I've got my phone now. I left it in the kitchen just because I think it's going to make more sense. That's not what we wanted. I'm all over the place today, aren't I? For anyone who's watching for the first time, normally I'm much more together than this. No, you aren't, Paul, says everybody who watches every week. ChromaMagic, come back. Yay! So now you can see kind of what I'm working from. The only thing is now I need to get the stream up on my phone, so slight delay of a few seconds while I get this up. It's just so that I can answer the comments, you know, at the same time. This is why I should always have all of this stuff ready before I start. Here we go, find my channel, find the stream. Someone talking about motorbikes. No, we want this. No, don't do that. But it won't, it's not showing me the, this is weird. I've got my phone, I'm watching my phone on my phone. Why won't it show me the chat though? What do I have to do to get the chat up? Normally I just have it. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to have to do without it for a while. I'll try and figure it out as I go. I just wanted you to be able to see like what I'm actually painting from. So the value around here is going to be the same value as like this kind of middle value. I might change this value, but it is putting it in is an opportunity to possibly, let me move that around so this is a bit clearer, a bit better lit. It's an opportunity to clarify the drawing of the shape of the top without actually drawing anything, just the outline. See how much of this I can paint just with a spatula. Up again. So the reason I got this back up is the opportunity that I was talking about is an opportunity for a lost edge here. Spatulas are surprisingly difficult to do neat curves with. But here's our lost edge, look. It's not very big, just enough. Let's lose a bit more of it. I do like a lost edge. I'm a bit lower on my middle value now, so I might have to mix some more of that up. Definitely need some more of that middle value. Get some more white out. I don't think even that's going to be enough. You see how it's starting to get, I mean, it's drastically simplified at the moment, but it's starting to get that kind of, that feeling of something being backlit. Once the rest of the values are in, it'll be a little bit more obvious. But I do like these spatulas. This one is so flexible, I actually have to get plenty of paint down, I have to kind of use it, hold it like this in order to keep it from flexing too much. If I want it to cover well. But you get some interesting marks this way. There's a kind of a penumbra around the shadow here. We're chucking it down. We're just chucking the paint down. Having fun with it. Next value up is going to be all around this area. Oh, that wants to be lighter too. So I'm trying to make sure that I've got enough difference between these values so that when they're next to each other, yeah, that's good. When they're next to each other, they show. Look at that great big wodge of paint on there. They show clearly as being different values. So this is my second to lightest value. And we've still got white, of course. You know, I haven't used white in my values. I stayed just a little bit below white. So the thing is, there's a really good book called The Practice and Science of Drawing by Harold Speed. And in it, he talks about different value balances, the different ways that you can handle values. And it's really, really fascinating, and you can play with it a lot. So I'm actually going up the value range quite quickly now, which hopefully will give more of an impression of this being infused with light. So if you think about the value scale, this is the range of paint. If you paint from the lights down, so if you get all your relationships about right, you put your lightest light in first and then you paint down from there, the value range in nature is much wider than the value range that we have in paint. So you'll end up going down the value range really quickly, which means you'll get into the darks very fast. So a lot of your painting, you'll end up with an overall dark painting with just some light areas that sing out. That's like really classical painting. Rembrandt, Golden Age, Dutch Golden Age still life painting. On the other hand, if you start from the darks and you mix up and you judge each value step pretty accurately, you go up the value range much more quickly. So you do have the full range. You have your darkest dark in, but the next value up is higher. You know, the step is actually higher, and you end up with an overall lighter painting with dark bits in, and that's Impressionism. And it's really good to be able to paint with both those kind of approaches to value. And to understand them and be able to use them in a drawing and in a painting. Because if you want like a really kind of moody sort of atmospheric dark painting, a dark feeling, you know, it's to me it's about the expression, you know. you can do that, you can put it in. But equally, if you would rather have a light kind of breezy, you know, feeling, something that feels like it's infused with light, you can make that too. I feel like I'm kind of almost being like a little bit of a stick in the mud, making myself do this whole thing with the spatula. This bit's tricky. I can't really get in there. But what I like to do is like, you know, sometimes if you're looking for like something new, you know, that you haven't done before, it can be really good to like push yourself really hard in a given direction and then sort of pull it back from there as you work through, you know. So I like to talk, and think in terms a lot of like, on the one hand, you have extreme abstraction of form on one end of the continuum, and on the other end, you have, high realism and very careful painting. And you can have both, within the same painting. It actually works really nicely. This obviously at the moment is hugely simplified. I'm going to stop using this thing to do this bit because it's too blunt a tool. I'm going to get a brush out. Oh, having a bit of bother getting the sound working. I think it's about to run out of charge again. Not much I can do really, except that I can paint on and just keep the chat open and do it without sound.